that's a brilliant plan, is it?
Brilliant.
You got one part of that wrong. This is not meth.
It's your meeting. Why don't you start talking and tell me what you want?
$50,000.
Oh, man. 50 G's? How you figure that?
Sorry to interrupt, but please consider subscribing to the channel if you do enjoy this video. Thanks. Tuco's arms are wide open and he's leaning back, which is a sign that he feels dominant and in control of the situation. He then changes his proxemics, which means the distance between people in communication, and gets closer to Walt. It goes without saying, but he feels totally in control here. Walt is making far above average eye contact here, which is him trying to gain as much information as possible about the situation. His sympathetic nervous system has identified that he's in danger and puts him into the freeze response. He doesn't move and has his eyes focused solely on the main stressor, which is Tuco. His confidence is faked. He's actually very stressed. Tuco then looks to his friends when laughing to build rapport with them. He seeks their appraisal and wants to know if basically they are on the same page as him. He's the group leader, or alpha as it's called, and needs to do this.
35 for the pound of meth you stole, and another 15 for my partner's pain and suffering.
Pardon.
When Walt is confrontational to Tuco, when he provides him with his solid reasoning, Tuco does a distancing behavior. He looks to the floor and then pacifies by swallowing. Walt trying to stand up to him causes him stress, and he pacifies and distances to help himself deal with the stress. And then he responds by intimidating Walt when he puts out the cigarette with his tongue. This causes visible stress to Walter, and you can see him pacify as a result of it. Walt swallows, which is a common pacifying behavior. Walt is actually terrified of Tuco, and his intimidation tactic is clearly working in making Walt feel uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. I remember that little bitch. So you must be daddy. Let me get this straight. I steal your dope. I beat the piss out of your mule boy.
Walt acknowledges what Tuco says by trying to nod, but then he does it strangely to the side. I think this is him trying to agree with Tuco, but not agree with him, if you get me. Also, look at Walt's hands. His fists are clenched, which in this context is another pacifying behavior. He's super stressed and tries to release some of that stress by clenching his fists. His feet are also really interesting. They're focused directly on Tuco. He isn't preparing to flee with his feet, which is what you'd expect from someone who feels threatened. From this we can tell that Walt's logical, conscious brain is very good at overruling his primal and subconscious side of the brain. It's surprisingly difficult to force your body to ignore the subconscious. Tuco keeps trying to intimidate Walt. He takes off his jacket and then paces around, displaying lots of open body language. He's toying with Walt, and you can see Walt giving in. He tenses his face and swallows again, which shows that he's feeling incredibly stressed by what Tuco's doing. Tuco is a master of intimidation, and he's not as stupid as he appears to be. He knows what to do to make someone afraid of him.
And then you walk in here and you bring me more meth? Woo, that's a brilliant plan, is it?
When Tuco hits the table, Walt quickly diverts his eyes to the stuff he brought in. He knows they're high explosives and focuses his eyes on them as they're causing him stress. He's afraid that Tuco will set them off by smashing on the table. It's a nice bit of detail.
Brilliant.
You got one part of that wrong. This is not meth.
then raises his eyebrows at Tuco and reaches down. He's afraid and doesn't want Tuco to react negatively and basically gives him the heads up that he wants to pick up the stuff off the desk. Again, showing that Walt sees Tuco as dominant and doesn't want to be confrontational with him. When Walt says it's not meth, Tuco turns his head slightly. This is a method of sound localization. Tilting the head angles the ears, making them more horizontal and better at picking up the direction of sounds. It's basically a sign that someone is really trying to understand what's going on. Tuco again isn't stupid and he's trying to stay ahead. This catches him off guard and is shown with his body language.
Are you fucking nuts?
You wanna find out?
What was that? No, Gonzo, calma. Calma. You got balls. I'll give you that.
Walt's mouth is now open. His sympathetic nervous system is preparing him to meet a stressor. And he opens his mouth to allow a better in-stream of oxygen, giving the body power and increasing the chances of survival. And thus increases the chances of you passing on your DNA, which is how this evolved into us through natural selection. He also does rapid head movement. Again, it improves the chances of survival. He's taking in as much information as possible about the surroundings, giving him more data to work with. Tuco realizes here who he's dealing with, and his eye contact shows this. He drops the acted facade of the tough guy and stares directly at Walt. He too is trying to gather as much information as possible to improve the chances of survival. He literally doesn't take his eyes off Walt.
All right. I'll give you your money. That crystal that your partner brought me, it sold faster than $10 ass in TJ. Let's say you bring me another pound next week.
Money up front.
Money up front.
Tuco is the primary stressor here, and the moment he turns his attention from Walt, Walt jolts his head to the other stressors. He's trying to again take in as much information as possible in order to survive the situation. Walt then continues to pacify. His mouth and eyes tense up, which is a suppression of a pacifying behavior. He's trying to tense up to combat the shaking and muscle trembling caused by the pacifying behaviors. This is such a well acted scene. You can really get a sense of Tuco's strategy here. You can see him try to deliberately intimidate Walter, which actually works because you can see it from Walter's body language. And then when he realizes who he's dealing with, he drops the tough act and notices the threat he's dealing with. Really good stuff. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.